Oh, hang on.
Yes, guys, and welcome back to We Are Tottenham TV for another pre-match pub up. Regardless of the form or the results, we will be here between now and the end of the season. Hopefully, Spurs can make it a bit easier on us. But of course, we travel up to Tyneside today to take on Newcastle, traveling up north in what is, for me, last chance saloon for Tottenham Hotspur. It really is the last chance of top four today. Get a win today sort of gives you a bit of hope going into United. But look, we've got a delectable panel here of incredible insights and a wealth of football knowledge. So let's go around the houses. Let's see how everybody is. And then I want to kick off with maybe a solution question. Baz, how are you, my man?
Well, I played cricket yesterday, so my body's in absolute bits. So
how'd you get on?
We lost.
How'd you get on?
Well, so, yeah, we lost.
How many runs did you get personally?
I got 5 runs. It wasn't zero. It wasn't zero. So, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good, guys. I'm good. I'm just gonna relax and watch. Obviously, we've had a couple of days. We've laughed at Arsenal after Friday night, and yeah, nothing to worry about yesterday. So yeah, hopefully Tottenham don't ruin our Sunday, but I think it's going to be another way around. So.
I hope not. I hope not. By the way, you want to give up that cricket malarkey. It's one that shouldn't even be considered a sport. It's more of a hobby or a pastime. But Sean, how are you keeping, brother?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Just a couple of things. First of all, delectable. Is that a new word? You got your dictionary word of the day out this morning. I like that.
You know what,
nice.
Sean, I had a spare hour this morning, woke up early. I said, you know what? Why not go through the dictionary and learn something new today?
Nice, mate. Nice. I encourage that kind of behaviour. And second of all, to use the cricketing analogy, let's hope that Tottenham makes some better decisions today than Nick did with his batting, and let's hope that we don't bring on a silly mid, or we don't use a silly and take the silly mid off, or something like that. That didn't really come off. I was hoping it.
Yeah, well done, Sean. That really worked.
In the mud.
Do you know what? I actually thought today would be a bit flat, so it's good to see everyone smiles and a laugh on their face. But Ash, how are you, brother?
Well, I'm blessed, man. I'm a little bit hungry, so you might see me just black out for a bit, get some food. But other than that, yeah, I'm blessed, man. I'm good.
Hopefully you're not like that Snickers ad when you turn into a diva where you're hungry, you know?
Maybe.
And Nick, Jack says, relax and watch Spurs. That can't be true, lad.
Well, if you expect nothing, then you can relax, right? If we sit here and expect that Newcastle are going to beat us, then if they beat us, then that's it, right?
That's not the point of the pump-up show, mate. The pump-up show is to
I
try
know
and
it's
find
not.
a way to
I know it's
figure it
not,
out
Sean,
today.
but I'm just trying to.
I know you're new around here. I know you're new around these pump-up show parts, but that's not the style we try and work with, okay?
We're going to win 8-0. What?
You know what? Look, the pump-up show reflects the form, so it kind of goes in that direction anyway. But guys, honest question, right? You know, we've been poor, this season. We've had a lot going on and off the field. Now, if we have any chance of making Champions League football, we need to finish strong. So, Baz, and we'll go around the panel on this. Put yourself in Stellini's shoes. What would you do with this team, with this squad in general, to sort of make them forget about everything that's happened so far this season and just concentrate on the last 7 and get a strong end to the season? If you were in Stellini's shoes, what would you do?
Well, first of all, I'll say we've got 7 cup finals, boys. and then get them all to tweet it out. No, look, I think it's 7 massive games. I think you're right. This week is. I spoke about it earlier on last week. It's critical with the games that we've got today, Thursday and Sunday next week. And look, we don't want finals. We're not good at finals. So maybe we should say 4th rounds because we normally win the 4th rounds. It's after that we have some difficulty. But yeah, I think he just needs to just say to them, look, just go and play, just go and express yourselves. And don't worry about it. Look, we're away from home. There's not necessarily going to be as much of the fans on their back, let's just say, as there has been in recent weeks. And we know what it can get like when, we go a goal down or something like that. So they're not going to, the players aren't going to have that. And I think, I think we just need to we just need to try and be positive and just play with a bit of freedom. Let's just say, like there's no pressure, and that's the best I think you can hope for really after kind of what's happened the last few weeks.
For sure. Shawnee, anything you would do, anything special or anything that you do think you would do or you could do in this situation to maybe galvanize everybody and get them all singing off the one page?
Well, certainly make some changes. I think there's two major changes that you could do today. And look, after today, if it does go bad, right, then I think that you could obviously, the nails in the coffin is done for the top four. You probably even assume that the fifth place Europa League is probably going to be done as well. And so then it becomes a case of like, it doesn't really matter what else happens. Conference League, some people want it, some people don't. I understand the argument either way. But for me, there's two sides. First of all, you focus on today and put your best foot forward. After that, I think you can then start to almost play with, it's almost like dance as if no one's watching, like kind of free yourself up a little bit and start to experiment. Give some time to some of the players that we'd like to see more of. One of them might, or two of them could even be options today. For me personally, I don't want to see Davinson Sanchez anywhere near the team. I don't really want to see Tanganga. But at the same time, I feel like if you go to a back four and you just use two in the middle, then I think you'll get absolutely eaten alive. So for me, there's options. I think that one of these two should start today. It's either Pape Sarr or Danjuma. And if you play Danjuma, then you can have him off the left and go to a 4-3-3, but then ask Decky to come in and maybe play more of a stabilizer role, that can do a little bit more of the kind of just a bit more responsible work in the midfield.
Third body, basically, in the midfield.
Yeah. But because I think he's capable. I think he's got the body work. I think he's got the strength. I think he could do a job. I do think he's capable of kind of transitioning. But probably the most sense for an away game in Newcastle would be to bring in Pape Sarr, and then you still could make the argument to play Danjuma and drop Decky because Decky's form hasn't been spectacular. Play Son and Kane up top, and let Danjuma float behind and then just have three players in Sarr, Skippy and Højbjerg. That's what I would do. I don't think playing Tanganga or playing Sanchez is going to help us in any way, presuming, of course, that Longley is out and that Davies hasn't found his fitness in time. It's going to be a tough game. But like I say, after that, whatever, and to Nick's point, I was only jesting about the role of the pump-up show. I think we all fear for the worst today. But if it does go bad, then I think that after that, the way that you can galvanize and try and get a reaction is to give people opportunities who are chomping at the bit to impress for next season, whoever the manager is, right? So you give Sarr more minutes. You give maybe even some of the young players, some like Mundell, give some minutes to him. Give some minutes to Danjuma. See if Danjuma can go and score 3 or 4 goals in the last 6 games of the season, then maybe there's an option there to do something with regards his permanent transfer. There's lots of things that you can try. But I think if we get a result today, then you probably limit yourselves in that experimentation because you're still somewhat in the race and you want to focus and put your best foot forward. So I think that there's like a glass half full approach to either result, in my opinion, today.
For sure. And look, I agree with you where you say maybe harness or use the people that want to have an impact, right? Sarr, from what I've seen in the cameos he's made, he's had an impact. He was probably one of the best players on the pitch at the San Siro. It's kind of like we're using every reason not to use him. Danjuma had a massive impact off the bench against Brighton. And although maybe not on the ball, but he forced Brighton backwards near the end of the game, which helped out. Came off the bench against Bournemouth. Same thing, sort of got us on the front foot, plenty of energy, always willing to look for the ball, get on it, make things happen, and he scored. And it's like, we haven't utilised him enough this season since we got him. As much as people, may not like the guy, Gil Messi, when he was coming off the bench, he was having impacts, running around, chasing down lost causes, and we shipped him out on loan. Richarlison earlier on in the season, some of the best work fans were praising him for was having an impact off the bench because he was chasing down lost clauses and putting pressure and forcing teams back. And I don't understand, in a period where we are right now, where we're not harnessing that. It drives me mad. But Ash, if you were Stellini, what would you do right now?
Yeah, no, I have to echo what you guys are saying. I would literally fling a Danjuma on and just stick him on Dan Burn and literally just let him run at him all day. Just put his burners on and literally cause him havoc. Because when I listened to the interview after the Bournemouth game, he sounded like out of all the players that he had his head screwed on. Like, I heard that he's good at interviews anyway, but he was talking the right type of talk. Like, he want to have it game by game. You know, obviously we're not in a position we want to be in, and then obviously the result didn't go our way, but we need to pick ourselves up and we need to focus on each individual game. And I felt like he was hungry, and you need players that want to play for the badge, that even if they're not getting played, they're going to have a certain amount of energy or a certain amount of ruthlessness, or a bit of shithousery, may I say, because sometimes that's what you need in a game like this. When you're away from home, you kind of need to get in their faces and ruffle them up a little bit. And I would like to see that maybe from like players like Romero, who are not renowned for that. I want them to go and crunch Joe Linton or Almiron. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because they're like ball winning. Joe Linton's a ball winning footballer. Yeah. And Almiron's a dribbler. So you just really want someone just to clamp down on them and say, no, you're not having a good game today.
Yeah, spoil their mood from the get-go. Yeah.
Exactly. A bit like when St. Maximin came to us a little while ago last season. We kept him quiet. We kept him on a leash. So the longer we keep the fans at St. James's Park quiet, the harder it is for them. And they're notoriously known for the last few games for starting slow. So I know what their opportunity. I know what they're going to try and do. They're going to try and press high from the start. They're going to try to be onto us and try to put us under pressure. And what they like to do is trigger presses. So their first 2 or 3 players will go for us, and then what they'll do is try to press our wing backs to win the ball back, because that was a successful route against us against Bournemouth, and that's where Porro lost the ball, and it went on to obviously Sanchez, and that's how they got their goal. So with that being said, I would be telling Porro to push a little bit higher up so we could just dink a ball into him, and maybe cause some double up on a Dan Burn, because Willock's going to be pushed up high as well. Willock's going to be pushed up, so the space is going to be in behind. And Dan Burn he's not really a wing back like that. He's more of a fullback. So if you've got, maybe let Perisic sit. So if one of the fullbacks go, one of them sits and maybe inverts a bit and helps out the midfield, because they're going to have 3 midfielders, Longstaff, Willock, and maybe Ramirez. Maybe we thicken up our midfield just to help counteract when they're pushing up on us. And so, like, we're not always having 2 wing backs high up, and we're not so exposed at the back. And also, I feel like Skip needs to help Porro a lot on that side where Porro is, because Porro gets exposed a lot defensively. And I think we need to be switched on. A lot of times, we're not switched on, and the football IQ isn't there, and we get caught out with our pants down a lot of the times. Newcastle scored 41% of their goals through set pieces, and I saw against the Bournemouth game we kind of switched off when it was, who was it who scored in a corner? It was, I forgot his name, not
in the Brighton game.
We scored a goal. Brighton, sorry, it was against the Brighton game, we switched off and we let Brighton back in. Yeah, Lewis Dunk. So that was a prime example where we switched off, and we can switch off at times. So I need Eric Dyer, because Eric Dyer, I think, in the air is our best player aerially. So I think he needs to be switched on and sort the back line out, and we just need to be aware of those type of things. And I would just look at individual battles. I'll be like, look, guys, I want everyone to be more aggressive, press high up, the space is in behind, and let's just get on them. Let's just treat this game like we can win this game. And that's it, really.
Do you know what? A better performance from Pedro Porro today, though. Pedro Porro is vital today. If he's off his game, we'll get torn up, and if he's on his game, then maybe he'll be able to create some magic and give Harry Kane a glancing header into the bottom locker or something. You know,
massively. Well, I'm a bit torn on today's game, boys, because Newcastle do start slow, and that was seen in the home game where we played them, right? Sonny had a chance, a big chance, and he didn't tuck it away. And if he would have scored that, maybe on another day, that result might have been different. But then when we do take the lead, we sort of just sit back. We just, we sit back. We just allow teams to come on to us until eventually they score. So I'm a bit torn today. It's like, yeah, we need to take our chances early, but when we do, we see the repercussions of it. So it's a hard one to call today, but I agree with Ashmat. We got to look, Dan Burns is like he could have a job as a beanstalk in James and the Giant Peach. It's ridiculous. He's that tall. He's like a fucking tree, But we need to try and stop him today, especially from set pieces, corners. Because if I'm Eddie Howe, I look at how horrific Tottenham have been, not just this season, but for the last 3-4 years in general. It's been a problem since Jose's time, and just put the ball on him. What I hope doesn't happen is that they're floating it in our 6-yard box like Brighton were doing, and Hugo Lloris is standing there just allowing it to happen. That cannot happen today. Cannot happen. But guys, before the lineups are out, because the lineups will be out in about 5 minutes, I want to ask you guys this quick question as well, because we'll get more into the team after the lineups. If we don't get top 4 and Newcastle do, is that maybe a sign of the power sort of shifting? And how long do you think it could be before Tottenham will claw back? Because look, Newcastle have actually, to be fair to them, they've spent very, very wisely so far. Yeah, they've done the back line and the goalkeeper and they spent a bit of talent. But you'd like to think if they get top 4, they'll probably make a real good push, spend more money, bring in more firepower. And I think they'll be able to take a hold and a claim of a regular top 4 spot. And I fear that Tottenham, because we're not being run properly right now, and if we don't get that right, it could fall us further and further behind, and it might even get to a point where you might never claw back, because they've got a whole wealth funding them, just like a Man City do. Man United have always more or less traditionally been there, so it sort of narrows that top 4 scope for us. Nick, is there a fear we might never get it back if we don't take it this season?
Well, look, it's not just that, right? You've got Arsenal, Man City, Man United, and Newcastle there. You've got Chelsea and Liverpool, who aren't anywhere in that equation at the moment. Obviously, we know Liverpool are only 3 points behind us, and obviously we go there next Sunday. So you've got to think that actually that top 4 is maybe a top 6, and then maybe is it a top 6 becoming a top 8 rather than the same clubs that are doing it. Obviously, we've seen what happened at. Obviously Man City will always be Man City, but you've seen what's happened at Newcastle, like you said. Sean asked the question yesterday, do you want 1 70 million defender or do you want 2? And I was greedy and I said 2, potentially 3, right?
If you get someone 230. I didn't say 2. That would be a silly question.
No, 70 million. No. Yeah. Let me finish. Let me land, bro. Yeah. So I wanted 2 35 million pound
35,
players.
thank you. Yes, thank you.
70 million player, right? But also, you're right. I think if it's about doing smart business, no one's asking us to go and look. Newcastle haven't gone and spent the likes of like what Chelsea have spent, right? But they're way above where Chelsea are, and it's all about fitting them into that team, getting the right players with the right attitude, with a club that's got a plan. And I think the whole point here is that first of all, there needs to be a plan. We need to know what we're actually going for. Then we need to attribute. Look, we know we need 2 centre-backs, 1 centre-back at least. We know we need potentially a goalkeeper. We know we need a attacking midfielder, right? So those are the 2 or 3 positions that we need. But then we'll go and get a striker or something, or we'll go and get a left winger or something that doesn't fit the system or something that doesn't fit the plan. And I think the biggest thing that we need to fix is we need to fix what the identity is and what the plan is. If we do that, then okay, it may mean that we have 3, 4, 5 years of mid-table mediocrity, right? But if it means then that we come into a plan, brilliant. If we don't go and get a plan, we don't find a way that we're going to do this, we could be, it could be 5, 10 years where we're nowhere near this top 4 because everyone else has invested, got the right players, got their plan. Chelsea, Liverpool back, and then we'll be playing catch up like we've seen the last, sort of this season really.
Sean, where are you at with that? Do you agree with Nick? Do you agree with myself, or do you slightly disagree?
Well, I think the first and foremost, I think you have to remember that next season Champions League drops down to 5 spaces. Yeah. So there's definitely a slight bit of wiggle room there. But I do agree with Nick's points that there's 8, 9 teams now that are making waves, right? And Tottenham's seeming to be the one team that's going this way. Chelsea, I don't know where they are, right? I think Chelsea are all over the place at the moment, and I'm very thoroughly unimpressed with Todd Bowley and his team. I think that they haven't got a clue what they're doing. But Tottenham and Chelsea aside, Liverpool will figure it out. And the teams already mentioned. Plus, I think you could throw Brighton, Brentford, and even Aston Villa. Aston Villa are sorting it out. And if Aston Villa finish in Europa League, they got no problem spending money. Their owners are very happy to spend money. The one thing I would say is that whilst I always make the point, right, that finishing top 4 versus not, the difference obviously to the bottom line of the club is at least 60 million quid. And that's just the fact. Like the fact is that you get 60 million quid more than if you do. And if you qualify out of your group, than if you get into the Europa League, or definitely if you in the Conference League or not in Europe at all. However, it doesn't seem to have affected Daniel Levy and Tottenham's spend, whether we've been in the Champions League or out of it over the years. Like, you can't hide from the facts that you will have a 60 million quid hole that you would otherwise have if you finished 4th. But traditionally, Daniel Levy is terrified of not finishing 4th. So if we do finish 5th or 7th or 8th this season, I would still imagine that Daniel Levy would put his finger in his pocket, his hands in his pocket, and write some checks in the summer for a new manager. And again, it comes down to not how much you spend. It's always the same thing. It's how you spend it. And, do I think Tottenham will get left behind? It really depends again on what we do in the summer and whether or not we can find homes for the players that we don't want. And to identify those players that we do and make sure that they're not just technically good players, but ones that would fit the right system. And what worries me, again, just quickly, is when you hear reports today that Tottenham are closing in, and this is from tier 1 journalists in Portugal, that we're closing in. We're very close to sorting out the summer signing for Manuel Ugarte and for Pedro Gonçalves from Sporting. By the way, I'm all for both of those players. I think they're spectacular players. And I think Ugarte would be someone that could fit in as number 6 and play that monster role for Tottenham. However, I do think that it's important to wait until you have a manager and find out and a director of football, neither of which we have at the moment, before you make those decisions. I'll press pause because I know the teams are out. I'm going to get it up for you. Have you got them up there, Dave, or not?
Wait, hold on.
Wow.
No, I was going to ask, can you do it? Because my computer started going absolutely haywire. So if you could share them in.
Okay.
It does look like there has been a change to a back 4.
Here we go.
Sorry, Nick, go on.
I can't believe we're going to play Perisic and Porro left back and right back.
No, it's very interesting. 3 in midfield. I'm going to log out and log back in. I think I'm lagging.
All right, just put up the screen before you do it. Oh, he's gone. I'm not sure. I'll read it out for everyone. So we got Lloris in goal.
I'll get it up.
So I've got it up. We got Lloris in goal, Pedro Porro at right back, Romero and Dyer in the back in the middle, and then Perisic at left, Højbjerg, Pape Matar and Oliver Skip as the 3 in midfield, and then Kulusevski, Kane, and Son. Substitutes for the day are Fraser Foster, Japhet Tanganga, Davinson Sanchez. Clement Longley makes the bench. That's interesting, as does Ben Davies. That's interesting. Yeah. And then you've got Mundell, Alfie Devine, Arnaud Danjuma, and Richarlison. Look, it's one of the formations that I said at the start that I don't mind seeing it. I didn't really want to see that Sanchez or Tanganga being placed on the left side. I think they'd got torn apart. There's no other option with Perisic on the left and Porro on the right because they're our only fit wide players. Yeah. So the only option you had was really to put in someone in the midfield and try and protect the life out of that back 4. I don't know which one of the 3 it's going to be. Probably Sarr, I'd imagine, would be the one who gets asked to sit back. And the only other choice that I'd say is I'm not sure if Kulusevski should be in the team. I think that you could have made the argument for either Danjuma or probably Danjuma to start ahead of Kulu. But yeah, I'm okay with it. It's about as best we could do, I think.
Yeah, Ash, you haven't spoken in a while, my man. We'll let you have a go rather than me opening up my big Irish trap. What's your thoughts on the lineup, my man?
Yeah, no, I get it. Obviously, the worry is Romero at right back and Perisic at left back, because Perisic as a left back defensively can be exposed. However, we look at Newcastle's team and we look at the likes of Kieran Trippier. We know he's going to push up high a lot and he's going to try to come into the half space. He's going to get wide. So that might give an opportunity for Perisic to push on. And then I'm assuming Højbjerg has been playing like the furthest back of late. I'm assuming that he's going to be the defensive midfielder or the one to sit back a bit, and he's going to be cleaning up if one of the fullbacks push on. If we are to go for that type of attack. But personally, I think I had a feeling that the front three were going to stay the same. But I expect Skip to have the legs to help the front three. I expect maybe we'll see Son and Kulu go back to the positions that they were in last season, go a little bit wider and attack those wider spaces, as we were saying before. Like Trippier will vacate that space, so maybe Son will be in that space a lot. You might see Son in that space, and then you might see Kulu out wide as well, attacking Dan Burn, and then maybe coming in from outside to inside and attacking and giving Kane a bit of space as well. Kane will pin the two centre backs, and that's how I see it. To be fair,
apparently BBC have got Sarr at left centre back.
Yeah, that's what I saw originally.
They're taking the piss.
That's what I saw originally. That's why I was shocked.
No, that's not happening. If that was the case, he would have played a Sanchez or a Tanganga. I think he is. It's definitely a back four when you look at it. But look, Nick, before I share my thoughts on the lineup, what's your thoughts on it? Stellini's been brave.
Well, I think it is. It's kind of what we would have expected, right? I mean, I would have probably liked to have seen Dan Juma maybe play instead of Kulusevski. But look, the whole point here is what was the point of Dan Juma? Okay, we get it. We get the fact he came on, he started against Preston, scored on his debut, right? And it's only Preston. But, he completely, he really, truthfully, like you said at the start, Dave, he got us on the front foot against Bournemouth. He, when he came on, he obviously scored as well. So, look, I don't know what more Dan Juma's got to do to kind of get a start, right? Kulusevski's not been great. We thought he was coming back the last few weeks, and then the last couple of games he's had a bit of a stinker. But part of that because you've had so many different personnel changes at that right wing back position that he doesn't feel comfortable because he doesn't really know or trust what those other players are going to do behind him. So
where would you play Dan Juma though? If you were going to swap Dan Juma for Kulusevski, Dan Juma plays off the left. I'd play Son on the right. Would you?
I'd put Son on the right because he can just do just as well cutting inside and as he would on the left. All right, he's better. Son's better on the left. I think that's the problem. We don't have a replacement, which is why what I would do if the chance was available is I would have Emerson at right wing back and I've put Porro on the right instead of Kulusevski, but we don't have that opportunity to do that, right? So that's because we know Porro's better at attacking and Emerson's better at defending. So that would mean that right side would give us an opportunity, but I don't know.
That might be one of the reasons why Kulusevski's in there, right? If you are going to play Porro on the right, knowing that he can't defend, if you play Sonny on the right with him, he can't defend either particularly well. Kulusevski, and if you play Danjuma and Sonny, then you have very little strength up the top end of the pitch. Kulusevski, for all of his poor form at the moment and his rustiness, and what is becoming quite predictable with his constant pullbacks and cutting sides, he does have that body strength that might become. Might be necessary kind of outlet for us because I think we're going to spend a lot of the time, tucked back into like a 4-5-1 for most of the game today. And then when we can break, you're going to need him to be able to try and use his body checks to walk away from it. But I'm not. Look, it is what it is. We know what we've got. The bench. I mean, I guess Dan Juma and Richarlison to come on if there's if God forbid there's an injury in that midfield, right? There isn't any. There's not many options, or there isn't an option really. I guess what you bringing on Munda or Divine really is to kind of come in there, or you're playing someone out of position. So look, we're kind of bare bones at the moment, and look, it's going to be interesting. Look, everyone asked to change it like they did when it was 3-5-2. They wanted to go. Should we go 5-3-2? Should we go 4-3-3? Should we do all of this? But definitely, I think, look, from the way that Newcastle play in midfield, if we'd have gone with a 2 in midfield,
we've seen that we're not good enough with two in midfield against any team. So Newcastle, and also Newcastle off the back of that Villa defeat, they're going to want to, they've been away from home for 3 of the last 4 games. Coming back home, the crowd's going to be loud. They've got a point to prove. So we need to try and keep them quiet. And it's probably the best that we could have hoped for, really.
Look, when I look at the lineup, first of all, I said this week I wanted Tottenham to go out and try something new and trying, rather than just accepting what we've been seeing the last few weeks. So I got to say, despite all the injuries, fair play to Stellini for doing that. But I have huge concerns about this left-hand side. Dyer would probably be left centre-back, with Perisic at left-back, with sort of looking at Son getting back and defending along that side, which is not his best attribute. So for me, I do worry about our left-hand side. I would be very surprised if Eddie Howe doesn't instruct his Newcastle team to get us down that side. I also think switching to a back 4 going into this game, I think for the first 5-10 minutes, you're going to see teething problems. They're not used to it. You're going to see misplaced passes, people not reading runs, this, that, and the other. And I just hope that we can keep it together and not capitulate within the first maybe 10 minutes with the teething problems coming in. However, going into midfield, I think it's a huge plus bringing in Sarr. We miss Bentancur. And one thing I really liked about Bentancur was not just because of how good he was on the ball and how calm and collected he was I've often seen that guy press a centre midfielder, press a centre back, press a goalkeeper, and make him launch it long, where we can sort of turn the ball over. And we're missing that energy and that legs in midfield. Højbjerg and Skip have not been taking that risk to get out and put pressure on the ball. A, because they're always outnumbered and they'll just pop it around them. But B, they're well aware of how bad our back line is. So you see them not taking risks out of possession, but also in possession. But I think having that extra body in there, I think you'll see us be a bit more proactive. Try and get after Newcastle in the midfield a bit more. Try and turn that ball over a bit higher up the pitch, because usually we sit back so deep that when we do turn the ball over, we've got more or less the whole pitch to try and play through. Whereas if we turn it higher up, you've less bodies to play through, which will open up the spaces for the likes of a Kane, a Son, and a Kulu, and I think it'll benefit them 10 times more. I'm just trying to work out, will we play Højbjerg as the sitting midfielder and send Skip and Sarr, the youthful, the legs, the energy after the ball? Or do we maybe get Skip and Højbjerg to sit in and protect that back line, with Sarr maybe being the guy that's been given the license to get forward? It'd be interesting to see how that works out in the opening stages of the game, which midfielders are tasked with what job. I see a lot of people saying they wanted to see Ben Davies today. Just quickly on Ben Davies, it was always going to be a long shot. He's only in light training. That's what Stellini said in his press conference, which, as soon as I heard that, it's like, look, this guy ain't fit enough to start. But that's my thoughts on the lineup, guys. Anyone anything else to want to add?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a 3-4-3. I don't think it's a 4-3-3. I think what he's done is he's kept it free at the back. Instead of putting Sanchez as a left back or as a right back, or Sanchez as a left back or a right back, I think he's put Sarr there, personally. I think it is a 3-4-3. And I don't think he's going to... We'll see as the game starts out, if he has gone 3 in the middle and gone to a back 4. It'd be
why would you do that, though? Why on earth would you
take...
Why would you take a player that's barely played any minutes as a midfielder this season and ask him to play as a centre back when you have centre backs? They might be terrible, but they're still centre backs. Star's not a centre back. He doesn't.
I know. It sounds mad. It sounds mad, but I just got a feeling, because he doesn't want to change too much. I've just got a horrible feeling that he's going to put Sarr as the third centre back, and he's gonna keep it as a 3-4-3. The overriding value of Pape Sarr, though, is his mobility. The fact that he can cover so much ground and get around the pitch, which is why he's a midfielder. Like it's not his tackling that's he's known for. It's not his heading. It's just his ability to move. And if you're putting him as left-sided centre back, hey, look, I mean, you might be right. We'll find out in 45 minutes. But to me, if he does that, it's absolute bonkers.
On Sarr playing centre back, there is something to consider. When he came off the bench, he did give away that penalty against Southampton because of the high boot in the penalty box. So I'm not sure. I disagree, Ash. I'm not sure. You would take that risk with that guy. I really don't.
I hope I'm wrong. But I just got a feeling that he doesn't want to change too much, and he doesn't trust either Sanchez or Tanganga to play that role, and he's put Paquetá there. So, and
that's definitely a fair point.
I'd imagine the reason why those like if you go to Google and type in the game or whatever, you'll see like the formation. I reckon those things just have template formations, the most commonly used formation for that team, and then they just fit the players into the formation. So, so it's more of like an automated process. I don't know. And then maybe they all just syndicate that out.
I hope so, Sean. I hope so.
Same.
Otherwise, you're in the mud, Sean.
I'm always in the mud for something.
Look, guys, let's have a chat on Kulusevski. You know, he's starting today. Of course, some wanted to see maybe a change in that position. But where do you think it's gone wrong for Kulusevski? Because when he came in, he hit the ground running, you know, goals and assists left, right, and centre. He took up the mantle and, you know, he showed that he could play with Kane and Son. But this season, it hasn't been like that. Yes, he's had an injury, but, you know, I think he's got, 2 goals, 7 assists, and they're nowhere near the numbers that he put on the board last season. Now, I want to know, has he been found out, or is he just sort of going through maybe a bit of a patch, the inconsistency patches that you see these young players go through, a bit like Saka at Arsenal?
I personally think it's the role, similar to what's happened with Son. Both being played to arts. They both asked to be played attacking midfielders, and they've both been played to be a bit more central. So I think he's got a lot more defensive responsibilities without the ball, and he's having to do a lot more work defensively. And I think when you're coming from outside to in, where he was last season, now he's coming from inside to out. It's a slightly different role, if that makes sense. So what he's finding himself is in slightly more inward positions. And I think Kulusevski was better when he was getting to the byline and he was doing those cutbacks. And he was either cutting it back to Son, and Son was popping up on the back post or centrally and scoring a goal, or he would cut back and have a shot himself. And that's why we used to praise Kulusevski so much on his decision-making, because he would always find himself in that kind of pocket of space when he's coming out wide, and he's coming out from outside to in, and he's coming into that half space and attacking it, and he's being so deadly. And then also, I think not having Bentancur there, also, when we do the transition, the build-up, that is a key role. I've seen a lot of attacking positions for Kulu come out of when we're playing out from the back. He's always coming out from the wide kind of areas, and Bentancur is there to help the transition. He's helped to be calm, and we don't lose the ball in that area. This season, we've lost a lot of the balls on that right-hand side because he hasn't been there, and because the partnerships have been slightly different in a skip being there on that right-hand side. So I'm thinking maybe that could be a possible reason, and also the fact that he has been injured a part of the season, and since he's come back from his injury and we've had that World Cup break, he just hasn't seen the same type of Kulu. But I honestly think it's a tactical role thing. I know he said he can play there, and his strength is like being strong on the ball and then, you know, out thinking his player slightly. He does like a kind of, he slows it down, then he speeds it up. That's how he beats his player. And he's quite good at dribbling. But I just feel like the tactical side of things, he just hasn't adapted as well. And that hasn't helped his confidence. And as an attacker, confidence is everything, because he has got in certain positions where he should be able to shoot, but he's not shooting. He's making a pass at the wrong time. And some of his shots have been off. Some of his crosses have been off this season as well. That's what I've seen. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Baz, Nick, where are you at with Kulusevski?
I said it a little bit earlier. I think it's a multitude of issues. So he's obviously been injured. The constant rotation in that personnel at right wing back, Bentancur not being there, to coin Ash's phrase, using that half space well. You know, Ash loves the half space. Yeah, and then I think part of it is people didn't know what to expect. You know, and the injuries. So, and obviously everything that's happened off the pitch. So look, there's so many things. He's a young player. He's 22. He came in, hit the ground running. How many times have we seen that with so many players, not just for us, but for other teams that have come in young? They've hit the ground running. They've had an injury or something has happened. And look, we were all unsure of how this World Cup was going to affect all these players, right? And I think part of it has been obviously Kulu didn't go to the World Cup, so he lost that momentum. Then the injury, so it was we didn't know, we never knew how this was gonna help or hinder the players and the teams that are involved, right? I think it's just been an absolute mess from start to finish, and I don't think they'll ever play a World Cup again mid-season, or I hope they don't, because it just still feels weird now that they've had so much time, and it'd be nice to go into next season with, the kind of everything else. But Kulu, look, I think it's like with everything. You could put Kulu in the same thing as what's happened with Son. You could put him in the similar sort of breath where what's happened. The Golden Boot scorer from last season has kind of gone missing as well. And what's the reason for that? There's so many factors. I just hope that these next 7 games, all of them kind of find a bit of form and try and play freely and play with no pressure. Because if they do that, then hopefully we'll see a better version than what we've seen the last few weeks.
I hope so, because we really do need him back. But Shawnee, where are you at with Kulu there?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, I think his confidence has just been shot from the injury. He got rushed back. Hamstring injuries never recover very quickly, and they always are liable to go again. He came back, rushed back, got injured, went away, came back, got injured again. Like, he's had 3 little mini periods out. And because of other injuries to other players up in the forward line in the first half of the season, he wasn't given the proper time to heal. And I think it's been very noticeable that he doesn't have that. Not that he was ever particularly rapid, but he did have like a sort of 4th gear that he could get into. And I don't think we've really seen him get anything like his top speed since he's come back from injury in the second half of the season. I think also he doesn't necessarily have the confidence to kick the ball because of that lack of pace. He doesn't have the confidence to kick the ball past the left back or whoever on the defense and take the man on and whip it in with his right foot. And so he then naturally becomes more predictable and just cuts inside every time. And if you're a smart defender or the team coaches are doing their due diligence during the week, then they're always going to say to the left back or the left-sided centre-back, show him the half a yard down the outside, because he's more likely to come in. And when he does, you'll be able to pick his pocket. So I think it's a combination of predictability that is born out of a lack of confidence that following being rushed back earlier on in the season and his hamstring isn't fit. I think next season you'll see him, if he gets a full season, pre-season, where he can get on the treatment table, really get that confidence back. I think you'll see something closer to the early version of Decky than we're seeing right now. But yeah, it is a problem at the moment, and I think the solution is not going to happen overnight, because it all comes down to his ability to find the confidence in himself to stretch his legs, and he doesn't want to do it. So that's how I feel about him.
For me, look, I think, at Kulu's age, inevitably you're going to grab, there's always going to be an inconsistency there, it just comes with young players. But also I think coming back from the hamstring, I just don't think he's feeling the stroke of the ball as he was before that hamstring injury. And you can get that sometimes where you come back and you're maybe just not hitting the ball right, the way you used to before that sort of injury. So for me, I think, look, I'm not really too concerned when it comes to Kulu. What I will say is, I do find since Porro's come into the team that we're a lot less reliant on Kulu. When Emerson's in the team, it's almost Kulu has to come over and take the ball right off him. When Emerson's not there and Porro's there, Porro's whipping in balls from left, right, and center. So it's not everything is going straight into Kulu. And I think that partnership will take time to develop. And I think once it does, for me, I think it really, really excites me. But I also think that could be a contributing factor over maybe the last couple of games for sure. That I think with Porro, he can take a lot of the burden and responsibility putting the ball in, whereas Kulu had to do that with Emerson there. So interesting. But Sean, you brought up the Newcastle lineup here. Let's go through it.
Yeah, you got Nick Pope in goal, back 4 of Trippier on the right, Fabian Schär, Sven Botman and Dan Burn. And then it looks like they're going for a 4-3-3 with Guimaraes, Longstaff and Joe Willock in the middle. And then Joe Linton on the, I guess he'll be on the right, Jacob Murphy on the left, and Alexander Isak playing as the 9. You might see Joe Joe Linton on the left and Murphy on the right, is it?
No, I think Joe Linton will be in the middle, and you see Willock, Murphy, and Isaac, I think, form the front three. I think is what they tend to try and do. I could be wrong. That's what it looks like to me, that Joe Linton would be in there with Longstaff and Gomeres. Longstaff is sort of the guy that takes the back line and allows the other two to get forward.
Yeah. And then on the bench, they got Dubravka, Lascelles, Gordon, Anthony Gordon, who's been an absolute waster since he's gone there. Wilson, Richie, Target, Manquillo, Almiron, who's ruining my fantasy league because I put him in my 11 today. That's a disaster. And Anderson as well to finish off there. Sorry, Dave, you're absolutely spot on about the 11, mate. I wasn't thinking when I said that. Interesting team. Strong team. Very strong team.
Very strong team. They're going to have the work cut out in midfield for sure. And their backline, it is worth noticing that their backline is actually the best backline in the league. They've only conceded 24 goals this season. So we are going to struggle to maybe create chances. And we do have to take what chances we create. But maybe last talking point then, guys, is the difference maybe between Newcastle and Tottenham this season, the areas of recruitment. You look at Newcastle, since the takeover, since Eddie Howe, they've brought in Nick Pope, they've brought in more or less a whole new backline. And that's been the foundation with the amount of least goals they've conceded, least in the league. They're sitting inside top 4 right now. We didn't buy a goalkeeper. We didn't buy centre-backs. And it's sort of, it's the same guys that are causing us problems, that are, costing us points. And is the difference then, because I think we've conceded, 24 more goals than they have, but we've scored 11 more than they have. So is the difference actually the recruitment across the back line between Newcastle and Tottenham this season?
Yeah. Well, look, I think Sven Botman was a player that Tottenham were interested in, but Newcastle went out and made him their number one choice. And I remember last summer, most Tottenham fans, I remember I did a couple of streams on the back line, on the centre-back options, looking at, we went through loads of them, right? Bastoni, Hincapié, Longley, Botman. We went through all of them. And most people, I distinctly remember saying, I don't want Sven Botman, don't want him. And yet Newcastle identified him and figured out that he would just suit their system, suit the Premier League. And he's been an absolute revelation. Even putting Dan Burn, who's like, what is he, 6'7" or something? He's the tallest left back I've ever seen. And, he he's obviously not their number one. I'm sure he'll get replaced or improved upon at some point in the summer, maybe, but he's been very good. Fabian Schär as well. No one would have wanted Fabian Schär a long time, a couple of years ago. But again, I think it comes down to not necessarily that they've got the most talented back line. I just think they're super organized and they're all playing for the manager and they're incredibly tightly coached and they're getting every ounce of blood out of that stone as they possibly can. I don't think the quality of the back four, Kieran Trippier, I think still has been spectacular as well for what it's worth. And we should have, I don't know why we didn't go and try and convince him to come back to us. But I think that they don't necessarily have a fantastic quality on paper, but they just are playing for it. They're playing for each other. They're playing for the system. They understand the system. And as I say, the synchronicity and the chemistry of all four of them working there with someone like Sean Longstaff behind. Again, Longstaff coming in and just sitting in and protecting when necessary. No one would have had Longstaff down for the season that he's had this season. So once again, I don't think that the team is that, or the back four is that technically spectacular. I just think that they are incredibly well drilled, incredibly well organized. Everyone knows their role. Everyone knows where the other players are going to be, who's doing what. And I don't think that you can say the same thing for Tottenham.
Interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
Interesting.
I think basically the difference is I look at their team and they did prioritize on the goalkeeper, which worked out for them. He saved a lot of shots for them and helped them push up the table. And obviously Steve Botman and Dan Burn, if you look at their back line, apart from Kieran Trippier, they have height. They have giants at the back. I think all of them they're two, definitely Dan Burn and Steve Botman, they're 6 foot plus. So when you've got a lot of height in your back line, that's going to make a hell of a lot of difference. I think they should really be focusing more on set pieces because they got so much height. Even Joe Linton's, he's a big fella, he's tall. Gomeres isn't small, he's a big fella. But I think when I look at their midfield and even their front line, apart from Isaac, they're all kind of ball winners. So you've got Longstaff protecting. Gomeres, very combative. He likes to win the ball back. Brazilian, South American, he's got that in his nature. Joe Willock, box to box, likes to win the ball back, puts pressures on team. Jacob Murphy, although Almiron's very attacking, I think the reason why they picked Jack and Murphy is because he's going to protect the Kieran Trippier when he comes up, and they need to have protection on that side. And I think there was a lot of trouble when against Aston Villa, Sean Longstaff wasn't there, and I felt they got exposed because he wasn't there. He was there to protect them a lot. So I think between Longstaff and Joel Murphy, they're going to be protecting that right-hand side. Like I said before, Joel Linton, very, very front-footed, wins a lot of pressures, lots of interceptions, very competitive. And that's a big part of his game. I think that's why they put him into midfield. And I think between Joe Linton and Joe Willock, they might like interchange. You're going to see them a lot on that left-hand side. And sometimes it might be Joe Linton furthest forward, and sometimes it might be a Joe Willock furthest forward. I think that's the reason why we wasn't sure what the formation was when we looked at the Newcastle lineup. It could be either or. The last game against Aston Villa, it was Joe Linton that was in midfield, and Joe Willock was slightly higher up. That's how they started. So they've got players that are box to box, that do like to get forward, and they can interchange. But overall, Newcastle, they're very like solid, and I think that's down to how before he got the job, I heard that he was not coaching, he was taking a break, and he was down at Atletico Madrid and looking at the training sessions of Simeone. So he might have taken some of that defensive approach and installed it into his Newcastle players.
Yeah, a very interesting point. Where are you at with it, Nick? The difference between Newcastle and Tottenham, the areas of recruitment prioritised?
Well, look, I mean, that we all know this is what we needed. You know, we probably only needed a couple, right? Like you said, they've gone the whole back line. They've got, like Sean said about, you wouldn't say that Fabian Schär would be someone that would be pulling up trees and everyone would be sitting there wanting them in their back four. And they've got a mixture of experience and youth, right? You've got that, you know, you've got the experience there, and I just think that they've just done fantastically. And then obviously a couple of obviously Guimaraes and Isaac up front, and obviously their bench as well. Look, it's a lot stronger coming off if they need to, change the game like they did. You know, we saw it. When was it? A few weeks ago when they were 1-0 down, or they were just about to score, were going to make a change, didn't make a change. Or went from 3 subs to 2 subs. Then they brought on and went for the goal, went for 1-0, then went to 2-0 to go and clear that game out. I think their in-game management as well is, because of their recruitment, has allowed them to be a lot better. Because realistically, if we need to change the game, what are we doing? We're bringing on Danjuma and Richarlison, right, to try and get us goals. So there isn't really anything else on the bench to try and do it. And we know Richarlison obviously loves an offside goal. And Danjuma obviously scored against Bournemouth. So look, they've recruited in the right way. They've got a plan. They know what they're going with.
They have avoided they haven't had that many injuries this season, though, Nick. You know,
exactly. And that's the other thing. So with the games that they haven't been playing, they haven't had the injuries. Obviously, they haven't had Europe to contend with. So it's going to be interesting how they then go that step further next season, because they are going to have European football. They are going to be playing more games. And you know, it's going to be interesting to see where that kind of ends up, if because that's what they've benefited from, having less games. They haven't had the injuries. I mean, we've had, obviously, look, you can call the players that we've had injured. Yeah, I mean, you can call the players that we've had not great, but it certainly makes a difference. To you know, I wouldn't say Cess is a massive loss, but actually, you know, him or Perisic doesn't really matter, right? But you know, Emerson, I think. I mean, obviously, everyone knows how much I love Emerson, but I think Emerson has been a big loss, especially as he kind of turned into some form. And look, it goes that way sometimes, but yeah, I think we need to prioritize where our plan is and where we need to strengthen, and it needs to be in that defense. Because, like, going into today's game, if we go with 4 at the back, it's Romero against the rest, right? Because 3 of the 4 players can't play. You know, Porro and Perisic can't defend, and Dyer cannot play in the back 4. So it's Romero against the world today.
Look, when I do
imagine. I'm sorry, mate.
Go on, Shawnee. No, go on.
The last thing I was going to say was, I do imagine on that point, mate, with that Newcastle lineup, I do imagine that you're going to see 2. It's almost going to be like a 4-2-1 three kind of thing. Like I think that the midfielders are going to be asked to do a lot of defensive work. And I don't, to Dave's point, I don't know which of those two it's going to be or which of those three are going to be given the roles, because none of them really are defensive midfielders. They're all different versions of a number 8, right? But I think you're going to have to put a lot of responsibility on those two to protect Eric Dyer and
for sure,
and Romero as much as possible. Sorry, Dave, carry on, mate.
No, for sure. Just on the recruitment with Newcastle, I think, look, first of all, they realise, we need to stop the goals that we've been shipping, just to even stay in the Premier League, let alone make a push for top 4. They brought in the defenders. And when you look at the defenders, right, I was actually one I really wanted Botman. I like what he was about. But when you look at them, right, they haven't been household names. But it just goes to show, it doesn't have to be household names. You just need defenders that want to defend, that enjoy defending, that can defend. And we need to go down that route. They also brought in Nick Pope and changed over from Dubravka. And when you look at players that I would argue have cost us more across that back line, Hugo Lloris has made the most errors of any goalkeeper, leading to mistakes, costing us points. He's one. Eric Dyer's another, and it's kind of like, if you look at them, it's sort of players that have been here a long time that have cost us. When we knew last summer that we needed to be upgraded on, and we never done it, whereas Newcastle went out and done it. And I think for me, that recruitment, the areas they have identified in terms of recruitment, because it's the old saying, defence wins your leagues, goals wins your games. I think also, along with Eddie Howe's coaching, and, just having stability on and off the pitch all season long. We've had so much going on. It's completely took away from everything this season, and it's cost us. Everything going on with Conte, with Ventroni dying, with the gallbladder surgery, with his friends dying. It's took his eye off the ball on the training pitch. We had a knock-on effect on the football pitch. So I would say recruitment, stability, and I would say down to a bit of coaching as well is probably the difference. But look, guys, we are going to wrap up there. I'm going over to get my prison uniform on. I'm joining Pedro Porro in his prison for this watch along. But look, we'll go around the houses. We'll get a quick score prediction. I'll start. Look, I'm going to go 1-0. What I will say is we haven't won any of our last 4 games on the road to Tottenham. I'll never predict anything other. But Newcastle haven't won. They've only lost 1 game at home all season, so that shows the magnitude of the task. We haven't won any of our last 4 away games. Again, adds to the magnitude of the task today. But the saving grace, the one and only Big Harry Kane, my guy, he has 8 games up at Newcastle, 8 goals and 1 assist. So I'm going 1-0 Tottenham. Kane to be the man today.
I'll go next. I've got 2. I'm going 2-2. As much as I'd love to predict the win, I just don't see it happen. I don't see our defence holding us together. I think we're going to concede twice, but I do see Sonny putting in another. I do see Sonny putting in a good shift again. It's nice to see Sonny getting back to something like his old best with his confidence, his work rate, and he hasn't been at fault at all for the last couple of games where it's gone a bit pear-shaped. So I think you might see him put one in the top locker. And I think you'll see Harry Kane chip in. So Harry Kane and Sonny to salvage something from the game, but ultimately it's not going to be enough for our top 4 hopes. 2-2 for me.
I'll take that. I'm actually just changing mine to 2-1 Tottenham. We're not keeping a clean sheet. Thanks for reminding me of that, Sean. Thanks for pulling me back out of my delusion. I appreciate that. Nick, where are you at? What's the score prediction?
Look, for me, I can't see anything other than a Newcastle win. I'm going 3-1 Newcastle. It's not how the pump-up show works, Nick. Unfortunately, it's not about pumping up. We need to be realistic as well. And normally, look, I don't normally get this is a mud-free zone. This is a mud-free zone. It's the pump-up show. You have to stay positive. Okay, well, unfortunately. No, look, normally when I get my predictions wrong, which I normally do, so I'm going 3-1 Newcastle. So I think if I'm wrong, then it's going to go the other way, right? But look, it's going to be a hard afternoon. The only way you can be in the mud on the pump-up show is if you predict us to lose and we don't. Then you're probably in the. If you predict us to win and we don't, then you're not. It's a mud-free. It's like you get away with one. It's a get out of jail. Oh, you get away with one. Oh, you get away with Spurs then. 3-1 Spurs. Look, I think it's going to be a tough afternoon. We're going to find out in 20 minutes whether Sarr's at left wing back, right wing back, flipping in the left centre back. Maybe he'll be on the skywalk. Who knows where he's going to be? But We'll find out in 20 minutes, but it's going to be a tough afternoon. Romero's going to be the one person in defence, and he's probably going to try and crunch someone. It's going to be Romero bingo. If Romero gets booked in the first 20 minutes, then it's going to make our life even harder. So look, sadly, 3-1 Newcastle.
And where are you at, Ash? Do you want to join me and Sean on Sean, actually, do you want to join me on the delusional train, or do you want to join the realistic train with Nick and Sean?
I think it's a must-win game. And when it's a must-win game, we don't win. Going off the back of our last performances have been poor. Whether you look at the win against Brighton has been poor. We've just been poor all season, to be fair. Defensively, we're not good enough. If we play out from the back, I think we're doomed. I think we will, because we're playing the two sitting. I think the two might sit, so we might play out with a 6. But yeah, I just think Newcastle will be up for it. It was very unlike them to lose against Aston Villa. Everyone was shocked. It's probably their heaviest defeat. So I think Newcastle will edge it. I think Newcastle will end our top 4 hopes. And I think Newcastle will win 2-1. I don't think it'll be a massive scoreline, but I think they'll play us. They'll play better than us, in my opinion. But I hope for a win for Spurs. That's my hope. A 1-0 Spurs win. That's what I hope for.
Let's wait and see if it happens. And Chen Mehmet, don't worry. Look, I've been saying all week, I'm not expecting an ending from this game. In fact, I've been saying that the next 3 games are going to be incredibly hard to watch. But one thing you will not get out of me is me predicting Tottenham to lose. I will never, ever come out of my mouth. It's not allowed. So, look, if you find that delusional, fair enough. But it's just the way I am. I will never, ever predict the Tottenham demise, regardless of how in the mud we are. But look, that's it. We'll end it off there. Stay tuned for the watch along with Ben and Sim. Not traveling to any more away games. They said they'll do all the watch alongs for the away games now. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I'm off to do my own watch along. I don't know what these boys are doing. I think Sean will be joining me. But Ash, Nick, go and crack open a can, get the sandwiches ready, and hopefully we get the win. As always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Bye.
Later.